Well, they said constructive criticism, that's what you need. Don't be a Simon Cowell, constructive criticism. And I always remember the great Les Dawson said he was doing the clubs in the north, and he came off one night, and this fellow came up, he said, can you take constructive criticism? They said, oh, yes. He said, well, you're rubbish. But we're not going to do that this afternoon. We are going to give some good constructive criticism, I hope. And so I'm going to hand over for the first film, which is Zion, which we're going to talk about. And I'm going to hand over to Kate or Tessa.
Yeah, I'll go
I'm going to
first.
hand over to Kate.
Great. So, Chris, I can't really see you, but I will address the comments to the room, but particularly to you. I just wondered, did you, when you went off to this amazing place, which I'd love to go to myself, did you plan to, did you go to that place to make a film, or was it?
It was a vacation, and we just took the camera and a tripod along to make a film for club entries.
Great. So, it was absolutely beautiful, and right from the first shot, in an extraordinary place, and amazing to be there. And so my first constructive criticism is to let us be there and let the images speak for themselves a bit. I was taken on this journey at a place that I've never seen to before, and it just becomes more and more majestic as you go through. And something I think worked very well was you had sort of chapters to the film. And the most successful bit for me in the film was when actually you stopped talking and but then when you started talking again, that was a really good transition, because it was when we got on the bus and then we just saw where we were and we went up through, and it was amazing. And then when you started again, we were in a different part of the film, and that then set the tone, if you like, for the structure of the film, which was to take us through different aspects of the park, and you told us a bit about each place as we went along. So I think that worked very, very well, sort of chapters, and you had slightly different atmospheres to the different chapters that you were in, and that was a particularly successful transition. So I'd say my main note from the film to think about with your next film is to let the images speak for themselves right from the beginning, particularly when you have such fantastic places to be, and then come in with the talk. We don't always need to hear, and film is, it's a visual medium. So if you're saying something, be absolutely sure that you're not repeating what the mind has already been informed of visually. But if there's something you really need to get across, and there was something I thought was incredibly important, was the note about hiking through the water. That was a warning you wanted to know, that if you undertook this, you would be on, up to your waist. And the other thing I'd say about your voiceover is, the bit I think worked best was when you introduced some humour. So when we had the wildlife and you said that they tend to vanish. So, use your sense of humour as much as possible and personalise your voice, because it's your film. And it's, you're not making it as a tour guide film, you're making it as, your experience of being in this beautiful place. So I hope you get the chance to make another film in another beautiful place for next year. Thank you. Alan?
Tessa, yeah.
No, it's you.
Oh, sorry, yes. Well, first of all, I would say that to me it wasn't a film, it was a slideshow. You had all that amazing opportunity which you didn't take advantage of. Far too many wide shots. And I think this is general on most of the films today, I would say. There's not enough close-ups. You either don't shoot enough material, and you don't shoot enough close-ups, so there's not enough to edit, so you hold shots for far, far too long. Medium shots, and you had water. It's wonderful. You had a lot of water there. That's wonderful to shoot water and stones and things. Even the nicest shot in the film, Chris, was the squirrel. That was lovely. That was close up, very clear. And also, I didn't think you got the best out of the camera. I don't know what your settings you're using on. I used that camera, the X1, and I think the result should be better from that camera. It was very overexposed a lot of the time. You got no scale of that thing. I could have shot better, I think, going up through Cheddar Gorge. But you had no scale of that. And too many shots, similar shots on the bus, just panning along. I think that applies to all of them. Close-ups. Don't zoom. I think they should chop the zoom on cameras. There shouldn't be a zoom on cameras. Either go in, frame the shot, come back and have a different shot. Don't zoom. And a lot of the zooms go in and stop suddenly and go to something else. A zoom is a horrible things much better, but you can't do that on holiday. It was nice to see you use the tripod, so that the shots were very, very steady. That was very good. Well, sound was not that good. It was a bit up and down with your voice coming in. You didn't keep the level doing the narration. But what else can I say? Very, very grey skies there. There were no blue skies. Was it very grey? Was the weather not good? No, it was very grey. It didn't look sort of blue with the cliffs. Because that's, I think, one reason the cliffs didn't stand out against the sky. It was... But no, I think you could have, there's a lot more opportunity to shoot things there which you didn't shoot, which I would have liked to have seen. And you could have done a lot with a really good 5 DSL and do a slideshow. There wasn't enough action for me. You know, it is cinema, it is video. So they're nodding in that.
We're all nudging him. Let's pass them the mic.
Anyway, okay.
So I wouldn't take the slideshow as necessarily a derogatory thing.
No.
Because actually I want to say that I've seen some amazing things done with slideshows. So slides.
It's not a derogatory thing at all.
I'm saying that it can be really a positive way also.
But you could have done it with slides.
So sometimes it is a case of sometimes thinking, is this better as a slideshow because it's such amazing imagery? So a slideshow can actually hold it together. In terms of the film, I thought you did a really good job. I came away thinking I've got a real sense of what it's like there, and also a real sense of the practicalities of getting there, you know, what it's going to be like to be walking around as a visitor, where I can park, what the walkways look like. I mean, lots of people have disabled members of their families, or they're taking children, and you do actually want to know those sorts of things on a visit. So you got that information in, which could be really useful. My feedback to you would be similar to feedback on most of the films today. It would be, who's your audience? And what's the main story? So this is a national park. Why is it a national park? What's the magic? What's special about it? And I would have wanted those things flagged up at the front. So change the structure around a bit. So you've got the, you know, why would people want to go there? It isn't necessarily because there's somewhere to park. I want to know that, but that's at the end, when there's the practicalities of how to get there. What I want to know at the beginning is, this was designated National Park in this year because it's the best place in the world to see this amazing rare plant. Or when we're driving through those mountains, you know, how high are the mountains, and just the scale of them. What's the significance about the geology of this area that's created these wonderful mountains? There's one mountain we drove past that had carvings of presidents, or, you know, whatever, and I wanted to know what was the story about that as well. So a bit more about the importance of this place. And some other tips I'd give would be use maps more. So there were some nice places at the beginning you used maps. And we had the stop-off places at the bus. And each time when we went to a different place, like the waterfall area and the place with the wildlife, it'd be quite interesting to see on the whole overall map of the site, where are those? And at the end, when we're talking about the different sites in the States, if we had a map of the States and we could see where this was and where the others are, then I think it just brings us back to an overview of the story. So it gives you more structure again. So just to sum up, it's the who's the audience, what do they want to know, what's really special about this place. If that's the story, then let's get that across. And I also give you I would agree, a little more close-ups, because a national park is presumably important because either of the geology or the wildlife. And so actually close-ups of even like the moss on a stone, or little things, even if you don't know what they are, a spider scuttling by, those things give you a sense, the leaves in the trees rustling, they give you a sense of what it feels like to be there, as well as the importance. In terms of the voice, just quickly to be spending a lot of time on the phone, run out of film and I'll talk to the rest of them. On your voiceover, I have a little technique that I use, which is if I've written a voiceover, I will, or if I'm suggesting to other people how to do it, if you write it out, and then take a sentence by sentence, read the sentence, don't learn it, read it, turn the paper over and describe it to somebody else, what you want to say. Just say it. Actually, forgetting how I've written it, what I want to say is, you know, you can take your own car too. Get the other person to write that down, and that's the way to actually write in speech and the way we speak. So when we tend to write it down the first time, we tend to use written speech, and if you actually turn it over them and just describe it to somebody, and they write it, then you're actually using real speeches, which is easier for the audience to connect to. So that's loads of feedback. But really well done. I've learned about a place that I've never been to before, and it just looks amazing. So well done.
Also, can I just go back? Yeah. You're talking about narration. I think if a documentary is good enough, you don't need narration. It will stand up on its own. And in fact, you said the map. There was a map at the beginning that was held for quite a long time, wasn't there? Which was far too long for me. And it wasn't America. Was it America, the map? And then you showed where Utah is.
States.
Yeah, yeah. But cut narration down to the barest minimum, really.
Yeah.
And if possible, cut it out altogether. But don't use narration. A film should stand up on its own, and without subtitles and things, just as a film. Just this is Utah. Also, another thing which I haven't said, I will say about this fonts. I think there was hardly a nice font on any of these films, and I think that is terribly important. Stanley Kubrick would spend weeks and weeks going through hundreds of fonts to get a font. And fonts and these are sort of the old things you used to get somehow in the 70s, 80s with things behind them. Just a plain font, either in black or white, whatever it's on. And also small. And then they're always too big. Fonts are always too big. Titles are too big. Make fonts, just so you can read them, but just a plain font. I think that's okay. That's it.
So, well done.
Yes, thank you very much.